Cinch is a play on the word cinch, which means simple. And the world of data has been incredibly complicated ever since the introduction of computer software all the way back in 1948, when that was really first invented. Heads up, you're going to have to make a choice at the end of this presentation. The status quo is to continue to design technology solutions which double as business capabilities in the same way that we have for many, many decades, where there's an app for everything and a data store for every app. What that means is the data's purpose is to serve the needs of the applications. That is its primary purpose. And separately, you have to try and figure out how to stitch Humpty Dumpty back together again if you want to ever do analytics or extract insights or gain intelligence from that data. So that model of being app-centric where the data is subordinate is the status quo. What we're introducing, though, is the new choice, which essentially flips the model on its head because we think it's been upside down, and changes it such that the apps are put in their place because they serve your data. So that's the choice. We'll come back to that later in the presentation. But the macro problem is that you pay an integration tax that slows down everything that you do. Today, that may only consume 50% of your entire company's IT capacity, but every new application makes that problem worse. So that integration tax gets actually more expensive every year, and digital transformation simply accelerates that spend. It doesn't decelerate that. So if you're in the integration business, that's great, but we're in the end of integration business, which we think is even far more exciting. The problem, though, is that we've had hardware and software, again, software since 1948, but every time you buy or build a software solution, doesn't matter if it's cloud or on-prem or SaaS or what the licensing model is, it's the same problem. You have to solve for data complexity, where to store it, how to protect it, how to track changes to it. Well, what's been missing from the world is this idea of dataware. Dataware itself was envisioned back in the 80s, but back then it was science fiction, talking about a future where data becomes independent of individual applications. The way to think of it is really what Dataware is doing is it's doing for data what the power grid did and continues to do today for power. So what did the power grid do? Well, it eliminated the need for innovations like skyscrapers and cars and really anything that ultimately needs power. It relieves them from having to generate their own power. Well, that's what Dataware is doing, is it's eliminating the need for innovations, what we think of today as applications, to have to manage, protect, and integrate their own data. So it is a paradigm shift. It is very different than data marts, and data warehouses, and data lakes, and data lakehouses, and data fabric, and data mesh, and data insert buzzword here, because all of those are just narrowly focused on solving for analytics, consolidated reporting, et cetera, but none of them even attempt to change how technology solutions are implemented and how you drive new business capabilities such that you're not reintroducing silos on a continual basis. So Dataware is not better than any of those things. It's just completely different. It's unique in that it addresses the root. In fact, we run our entire company on Dataware. And as a result, we have zero data silos, like literally none. We spend $0 on app-to-app integration. We've essentially avoided, even in a company of just under 60 people and growing fast, and we've avoided having to build thousands of integrations that we would have been able to do, and all of our data is connected. And every employee has instant access to all knowledge and intelligence. The only constraint is, do they possess the right access based on their job function? And we've even opened it up not just to employees, but to our partners, to our shareholders, to our customers, to our prospects. Even our website is powered by Dataware. There's a video on Cinch.tv that walks through how we made our website in 8 hours, just as a simple example. So we still use applications, but again, they're put in their place. They serve the data. So we have total control over our data. Our data is not trapped behind SaaS paywalls. We don't do the app-to-app integrations. We have 360 everything, not just customer, but literally everything, employee, invoice, whatever. All data is controlled with version control, access controls. It's all available through a single intuitive user interface. And every time we add a new capability, it makes all the other capabilities smarter, because while individual capabilities don't manage and control and trap the data, each of them now has access to all the knowledge from all the other applications because they're coordinating and collaborating via the Dataware. And we don't have a spreadsheet nightmare. So we're not running our business off of spreadsheets. So this is what the platform looks like. Won't have time today for an in-depth demo. But if you're interested, you could check it out online. We have lots of content, lots of live interactive demos. We also run live learning series as well if you want to join us live and see the platform in action. But we are the leader in DataWare. I mentioned 3 years in market, over 100 enterprise organizations. They're some of our customers across some of the industries, across some of the use cases. So use cases like building an employee data platform or a client data platform, that's just a small sampling. The idea of DataWare usually makes sense to people, like but how do you actually get started? So if you talk about 0% DataWare going to 100% DataWare, well, how does an established company actually get started? Well, the answer is quite simple. You use it whenever you're delivering new projects where you're going to be buying, building, or integrating technology, meaning apps, could be SaaS, could be anything. And that's the opportunity to begin introducing DataWare, accelerate that delivery, and begin your transformation to becoming a data-centric organization. This shift was inevitable. It's just a repeat of what's happened for files, going from file storage to file sharing to file collaboration to content collaboration. Data storage became data sharing, became metadata collaboration, becomes data collaboration. So this idea of collaborating on data, whether it's across humans, between humans and systems, across systems, or even across companies, is the future. And there are a number of usage patterns at which you can deploy DataWare in the context of your delivery of the projects that you're already going to do. It's simply a way of cutting time, cutting cost, cutting risk out of those projects, again, while enabling the transformation for no incremental cost above and beyond that. This is the platform architecture, what I call the marketecture. A lot of people like this. I'm not going to have time to go through it, but just so you can kind of get a sense of it. You got employees, customers, basically the universal interface for humans as well as for systems. There's like a common governance and control plane, a common persistence plane for autonomous data as well as connected data, and built-in integration technology to synchronize data into your internal and external solutions to enable them to upgrade themselves to be autonomous data where the data is independent now from the individual applications. Really quick example. Traditional approach, if you had 3 apps and you got your consolidation play, whether it's a mart or warehouse or lakehouse, if you're going to add 3 more apps, you would add 3 more databases and build up to 18 integrations. Whereas if you use DataWare from the same starting point, you would need 1 database and 5 integrations, so reducing your integration build count by 70%. And this is just a tiny example. In a real complex organization, it's much bigger than that. So quick summary, DataWare is a radical approach. It eliminates data complexity. It's not like analytic focused approaches like lakes and warehouses. It addresses the underlying root issue. It decouples the data from the applications, enabling data to be autonomous. It's driverless. It no longer is owned by the apps and the code. We've been in the market for 3 years, 100 enterprise, very happy customers, including some of the biggest banks in the world. There are core benefits in terms of simplifying how you build tech, how you eliminate integration, how you enable business self-service, and how you essentially put governance and controls on autopilot. You start by accelerating the projects that are already funded that you're going to do anyway. Save time, save money. And in doing that, you're building on top of your existing system. You're not replacing them. And by far, this is your biggest problem that limits agility, but it has been a blind spot for many CIOs because historically there hasn't been a solution, which is why we don't have the churn and our customers see Sinchi as a competitive differentiator. So I mentioned at the beginning, you're going to have to make a choice. So now you have to choose in terms of, do you want to continue down the blue pill path of where data is subordinate to the apps, or do you want to make data your first class citizen?